Hello. Today we have a third line. We are in gate 63, the gate of doubt after completion, and the third line is called continuance. When we come to this line of trial and error, which is called continuance, and particularly in the wave of bonds made and broken, we recognize that certain questions are important at one point in the life and are no longer important later. Or some questions are really off the track. And yet a question is a question, and not all of them are the same. Every question is unique. In the exaltation, we have the dedication to the new beginning that insists on maintaining its achieved principles, despite having to interact with those who have not attained such a state. Doubts that one can maintain one's principles when interacting with others. So what this really means is that these are people who have a question and they're never satisfied with other people's answers. They're looking for their own answers and they can't get their own answers. They're never satisfied with anybody else's answers. So can I really find an answer so I can get rid of my doubts through others? Every time I ask this question, I get answers, but they don't satisfy me. I still have doubt. I'm still looking for my answer. And of course, this is just classic trial and error. The person with the question is always meeting people who have answers, and they learn right away that not all of those answers are for them, even though it might seem like they could be the right answer. The third line brings a new beginning, and we're getting a shift here because the third line is always bringing you closer to the importance of the other. In the lower trigram, you don't know that there's an answer at the other end. You don't know that, but in the third line, because they're always bumping into people with their bonds made and broken and their trial and error process, they keep on banging into different kinds of answers. And of course, that's the learning curve here. And the process is to recognize the possibility that there is an answer for the question. And so we have this dedication to new beginnings. In the detriment, success at any price, the pressure to eliminate the doubt at any cost. Success at any price means insisting that your question is answered. The exalted side of this will actually go along with the people who say, yes, the answer is this and this. And in that moment, it makes them feel like, oh yeah, well, maybe that is the answer. And then they begin to lose their principle of getting the answer that is absolutely correct for them. The other side of this is deeply stubborn. In the extreme, every time these people ask a question, nobody's answer is right. None of them. They're never right. And I must have the answer. These are people who go on enormous investigative searches. These are the people whose inspiration or whose question may even be a mistake. And yet it's because the question is an error that the answer may prove to be of enormous value. And it's one of the sort of jokes of life, really. Science thrives on trial and error, on mistakes. A question can only be a mistake in a sense that the question itself is not properly configured. That's the only way. So this is someone who doesn't really know what they're asking for. The answer is always in the question. That's why the questioner has so much power. And remember where the nature of this pressure is rooted. The head center opens us up for information from the deep gray areas of the brain. What that means in the abstract process is that you have all of these video clips and then you collect them. It's a moving collection from the past. Doesn't make any sense. When you get to the logical side, all of the patterns are what is coming through. The collective is a very visual circuit, so it still could be coming through as images. The head gates can be really hard gates to have in your design because they carry so much pressure as part of their process, as part of their mechanic. Pressure and anxiety. And when you get to the third line, you can see that this could lead to all kinds of deep doubts and suspicion and confusion when we're looking at the entire collective process through all of those head gates. If you're living out your nature, if you know that your process doesn't have inner authority, it's going to operate correctly. Now, it doesn't mean that you stop it. It doesn't mean it's ever going to stop being what it is. which is a question machine. That's what it's designed to be, after all. But the moment you don't give it inner authority, if you just allow it to be that background research information of your consciousness, then you allow your definition, your type, and authority to guide you, and it will operate correctly. The answer that you accept as the detriment in this third line is conditioned by who you're taking the answer from. The moment you're going in as yourself, that's the moment you're entering in correctly, and you will benefit from your error. You will benefit from your mistake. You will benefit because the doubt is natural, and you will doubt until you leave this plane. As with so many things we find in design, the point is not to get rid of it. You're not trying to get rid of the doubt, really. It's never going anywhere. If we have it in our chart, we are equipped to deal with it, as long as we get out of our own way and we let the mechanic do what it's designed to do. So when you're clear, when you have evidence that the answer is legitimate, you can let go of that specific doubt and then go on with your doubting process, because that's the inspiration of the mental logical system. The grounding is coming from the 64 in the third line of overextension. Ra said that it is exceedingly difficult for the third line in this position to be comfortable. He said there is no greater enemy to the sanctity of the human life than the mental gates. They can be terrible. This is about coming to understand that what we see in human design through definition and type, and ultimately through whatever our authority is that we see that the mental system has no inner authority. No, it does not have it within the authority to make a decision for us in our lives, our own lives. Doesn't carry that authority at all, never, not for any type, under any circumstances. The mind only has outer authority, and Ra would say that his mind was great for us and absolutely horrible for him. And it would always be that way. It's very important to understand that unless we can be clear that our mind doesn't have inner authority in our process, every activation in the mind is going to be disturbing to us, and our mind will work against us. If we have the 64 or the 61 or the 63, we can be tormented by the pressure. They can be deeply disturbing activations, which also means, because we live in a binary, that they can be the other side of that too. That once we understand the mechanic, the mind can be free to do what it is supposed to do. And that can be a great joy, because confusion can become clarity. And doubt can become not doubt, doubtlessness. Doubtlessness. Okay. These things are possible because we live in this dualistic world. So there is possible to have fun with the mechanic, along with all the other stuff. But both sides are possible. When Ra talked about it, Ra had the gate of shock twice. He could be quite hyperbolic with his descriptions of things, and he would come in and he'd be like, we're all doomed. Forget it. It's all shit. But that's not the case, because we have the binary. So yes, maybe some of it is quite hard to cope with at times, but that's not the whole story. So it's always important to have the complete picture of it. The moon has been in the sacral gate 3 since 0441, having difficulty at the beginning, but finding its way through ordering. Next, it moves over to gate 27, staying in the sacral, but moving to the tribal circuit, to the defense circuit. This is the gate of caring and nourishment. It's a role gate, and it sets the strategies for the way we are designed to care for others, with its foundation being the hexagram, the foundation of the hexagram being selfishness. This is what it says: in order to effectively care for others, we have to take care of ourselves first. And the moon moves up to gate 24 next, and we have a few individual gates in the sequence now. 24 is the Ajna gate of rationalizing, bringing the inspirations of gate 61 into some kind of a place where they can be passed on after being correctly structured through the 4323. Individuality works at its own pace. It has a pulse energy, has its own timing. This circuit is also called the knowing circuit. So you don't know until you know, and you know what you need to know when you need to know it. We can put all of these things in together and offer them as keynotes for this circuit. It can also be the root of the melancholy that arises in this circuit because you know that you don't know what you don't know, or sometimes you know that you don't know something you need to know, and you don't know if you'll know it when you need to know it. I'm not going any further with this one. The final moon gate for this report today is gate 2 in the G center. This is the gate of direction that is home to the magnetic monopole. This is the receptive, the ultimate yin gate. This is the gate of higher knowing that has nothing at all to do with awareness and everything to do with going in the right direction. So thank you for joining me for this third line today. I will be back with the fourth line tomorrow. Until then, go gently.